everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hear This Now. Tonight's burning question is, ain't I a woman? That's a question we're going to answer tonight. I am, but people seem to want to define womanhood for me. So let me explore this thing further. Our main thing, of course, that we're talking about is biblical femininity. What does the Bible say about this thing? So let me get the ball rolling.
And I have the first question.
Let me go.
I was eager to just say that one. I have the first question. All right. So we all know the passage of the virtuous woman. Okay, so let's explore that further. Does the presence, because she goes out and provides for her family, and in various ways she takes care of her family, etc. Right? Does the presence of a family and how well she cares for them make her virtuous? Does that determine how virtuous she is, the presence of a family, and if she can take care of them?
Well,
Sean, you can hear us?
I'm sure I quite understand that question.
Okay, so many people would say, in order to be a virtuous woman, because remember the passage, Proverbs 31 from verse 10, right? It says, a virtuous woman who can find her, she's her worth is better than rubies, etc., right? However, there's a lot of emphasis put on her taking care of her family, right? So if a woman, in order for a woman to be virtuous, is it that she has to have a family to take care of, or is it that she can be virtuous even without the family? What is the definition of a virtuous woman? You'll understand the question I asked him now, right?
I think so, right? But I don't think actually that you have to have all of those things to be a virtuous woman. Anybody could be virtuous, right? You could have virtuous qualities about you and so on without having a family to take care of. You are a virtuous person, and then when you get a family, you are a virtuous woman with a family to take care of. You understand?
Okay, so what does virtuous mean anyway?
It just has to do with morals. Someone who's morally sound, basically, when you think about it. Or when you look it up in the dictionary, that's what it is.
Okay, and I ask this question because a lot of women may not be actually morally sound, may not prioritize godly morals, etc. Right? Yet, because they are wives and because they take care of their family, they will say, well, all right, I am a virtuous woman. Right? So that's why I was asking that question.
Well,
Yes?
maybe I could share some insight here a little bit on this subject. One of the things is that Proverbs 31 that's supposed to be the gold standard for women. So, even though it spent quite a bit of time talking about her responsibilities to her family, if you really look at it, it speaks to a lot of other things, a lot of other qualities. So like Sean was saying, what being virtuous really is by definition is just somebody who is of great moral standing. And what your standard of virtuous is, I guess it depends on whatever moral code that the young lady is in question follow. So if we're talking from a biblical perspective, what makes her virtuous is a lot more than what she does for her family, because the virtuous woman, coming down to the end, they speak about charm being deceitful and beauty passing, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. So that's one of the main characteristics that make this particular woman a virtuous woman. And many of the other things that she do that not specifically related to her duties where the family is concerned. So no, it's a lot more than just, hey, I take care of my family, I cook, my split piece dal on point, and I could iron better than all the women in the neighborhood. And my husband is obviously the best, and my children always looking neat for school, so therefore as a virtuous woman. You know what I mean? If at the end of the day you don't have some of the other characteristics like the woman fearing the Lord, then by this standard you're not virtuous at all. So it's a combination of many factors.
Yeah, Chris.
All right. So, in doing a bit of research and my own personal, thinking, what makes a virtuous woman to me is the fact that she has faith, right? And faith in God, to be specific. She loves God. She's a woman after God's heart, right? That's the number one thing. First and foremost, that's it. After that is how she carries herself, what her mindset is like, um, I don't have the scripture right now, but in terms of like waking up at the crack of dawn and then heading straight to work, that mentality, that diligence, that ability to serve, even she provides food for her family and her maid servants. I mean, in today's time, in today's society, we could say her friends, or provides for those around her. I think it's first is God, then it's the mentality, then it is how, I guess the mentality, yes, because the ability to take care of a husband, I think, comes before you actually have a husband. At least the training. Sorry, I should say that the training to care for a husband, care for children, comes before you actually have the children and the husband. And so, yeah, I think first God, then those things. That's what makes a virtuous woman a virtuous woman. And you don't have to have a husband or children to be virtuous, right? You have that before.
Right, well, let's take the answers right off my mouth. So, I have a question. What is femininity in the first place? Personal definitions, dictionary definition, what do you have for femininity?
Well, I can only Sorry, Krista, go ahead. You look like you wanted to say something. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. I think femininity is basically the way in which females act, or our nature, in a sense. So the fact that we are nurturers, caregivers, sometimes teachers, we are softer in a way, less aggressive, I should say. That's what I wanted to say. Less aggressive. Those types of qualities make, or what defines femininity to me anyway, or what I would discuss thing as femininity.
Well, yeah, I think the same thing. I'm going to say femininity is, well, the very shallow definition of it is when you act very girly. Some people will think that in order for a woman to be feminine, she has to kind of be like a damsel in distress in this kind of way, where it's like, come on, lift up this gas tank, please, because I can't lift it up for myself.
But it's heavy.
Come and change this tire because I can't change it for myself.
I don't know how.
That is the very shallow definition of femininity in my eyes.
Well, it could be upsetting some feminists something serious right now.
Like the business.
Some of them go and bust the tire and change it for spite just to prove they're wrong. And stream it.
And waste money.
I know that of us.
But to me, I don't separate being a woman and being feminine or femininity, because to me, with being a woman, femininity comes. So when you think woman, you think feminine. but
Okay.
is how you treat the femininity part. Because I used to like to wear a lot of pastel, what lot of pants and whatever. And then my aunt came one time and was like, you know, wear dresses and thing, you're not feminine. And then every time she comes, she would bring a dress. You understand? But that didn't mean that I wasn't feminine. You understand? I don't really understand what I'm saying, but like I don't
No,
separate
I
it.
understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Okay,
Hang
this
on.
is my.
So,
Yeah, go
oh,
ahead,
okay.
Amos. You go ahead, go ahead.
Right. Well, I think to uncover that question, we really have to. I think we'll uncover that question more as as we dive into the show, because what femininity really is a matter whether it's, it could be biological, it could be sexual, it could be behavioral, it could be based on how you feel, it could be based on what society says, it could be based on gender roles, it could be based on religion, it could be based on what God says. All those things kind of come together to make the big picture of what femininity is supposed to look like. You know what I mean? So some of the things that each other just say there kind of touch on some of these different social and spiritual areas and even biological areas. So I think it'll be tough to try to define that now, but we'll uncover much more of that question over the course of the show.
And yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like along the journey, we'll discuss that. But just to bring it back to biblical femininity, right? Um, we know that one of the instructions given to wives is to submit to their husbands, right? I have a question because I looked at this podcast. I didn't look at everything, but I saw some clips of this podcast with a girl named Jazzy. I think her name is Krista. Her name is Jazzy, right?
I think so. I think so.
Right. This girl named Jazzy, and Shan Budram was asking her, what is submission? What does it look like to submit to your man? And she said, it means to do everything, right? Submission means to do everything. So you have to pack his bag, make his lunch, bathe him, right? All these different extreme things is what submission is. But I would like to know, does submission equal service?
No. That
Submission,
I don't think in the context of what you're talking about. I think okay. I think this is how I think about it. If we go to the dictionary and look up submission, or even look at rounders and see where submission applies. Like let's say in the army, you sort of kind of submit to your leader, right?
superior.
Superior, right? So you go where you are needed, essentially. They give you tasks, they give you, whatever they see fit for you to do, you do. And you don't exactly do everything. One person doesn't exactly just do every single thing. One person isn't I don't know, the comms operator whilst being in the, listen, I don't know Navy and thing. I don't know Navy and thing, so I go and call real thing off, but one doesn't just be the comms operator whilst being in the field at the same time and doing everything at once. That is too much for one man. You understand what I'm saying? That's why we break it down. And submission, submission does not mean doing every single thing, right? No, you don't. To me, what that sounded like was babying or mothering, right? Where the child, babies can't really do anything, they can't really do much for themselves. They're not independent as yet. And so they require a parent or both parents to do basically, essentially everything: feed them, bathe them, clothe them, nurture them, all of these things, right? That is more of a mother child or father child relationship. In the constructs of marriage, right? You don't need one person to do every single thing. Okay, so submission, most times with marriage, or let's not say relationships, with marriage, I think submission looks different for each marriage, right? Because each leader may require something different from his particular wife than another leader would require from their particular wife, right? It does not require you to just serve, 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 do everything, do everything. That's just how I think about it.
I was going to say something along the lines of where ended today, Krista, in the sense of that is this. That question is kind of like it depend on the kind of individual you're dealing with, right? If that what the man need at the point in time, and she choose to do that because she choose to do that, I think she well and she well within she right to do that if she feel that is right. I believe that submission does come with service, right? I do believe that because so with me is like this. If I need you to do something, or if I need you to let me just say to help me out with something, right? So you're listening to me, but you're not doing anything with me or for me at the point in time. Submission kind of like it kind of goes hand in hand according to me. This is my definition, and I believe that yes, it does require some kind of service with it, right? And I don't see what I never watched the video or anything like that, so I don't know no point of reference to what I was talking about. But again, if the man need those things and she willing to do it, then I can't bite for that. That's all I was saying.
All right. So here my view on that, right? I disagree with the fact that submission is related to service directly. I think it implies service. So I'll agree to that, but to that extent, where if you submit, then it's automatically implied that that would mean that you definitely would carry out some level of service for the individual that you submit to. But the term submission is not about service; it's about authority. That's the very definition of the word submission: the action of accepting or yielding to the authority of another person. That is what submission basically is. So if I submit to you, then that means I accept that basically you in charge, and I will give you the final say or the final authority over any action that need to take place that involve the both of us. That is what submission is. So submission is not about the actual service. Submission doesn't mean that you have to do one thing, two things, or 10 things. What submission actually means is that you submit yourself to the authority of the individual that you place, that you accept to allow to be above you. Because it's not something that can be forced on. Submission is what is the word I'm looking for?
A
Voluntary act.
choice?
Yes, it's a voluntary behavior. So you make a choice to allow somebody to have authority over you in a particular area in your life, and yeah, and with that comes certain things. With that comes trust and belief in the person. Usually, belief in the vision of the person. You know, is a much more complicated thing than it seems like at face value. But it doesn't imply any amount of service. So you could be doing that. Could mean you could have one thing to do, or 100 things to do, or that could mean you have nothing to do, except for just to know that if a situation arises, that you have to defer to the individual. That is all submission really is. If we get into now what happens in a situation between the person with authority and the person that submits, that is our next conversation.
And like what I heard somebody give a very good definition of submission, which helps me to understand it even more. She said that submission is knowing that you can do it regardless, like you have the tools to do it, but choosing to not do it because the person who is your leader asks you to not do it. Or you, let's switch it up. You don't want to do it, but you choose to do it because your leader says to do it. You understand? So submission is literally giving up your willpower to somebody else. And it may sound very bad, but what I'm saying is, if you as a woman know that when you become a wife, this is what you are called to do, then I would suggest going with someone who you will want to submit to. You would want to give your willpower up to that person or allow them to take the lead in certain situations. Um, there's a Bible verse that says, if and I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up just now. If your husband is an unbeliever, then by your belief, he's supposed to be converted or something. So I can't remember. I'm paraphrasing, right? He's saved, converted, same thing. However, a lot of women will say, I am not submitting to any man who is not a Christian, right? However, you as a woman, you are the Christian, you are supposed to be obedient to the word of God no matter what, right? And newsflash, is you who chose the idiot. Look at Abigail and Nabal, right? She had to be submissive to Nabal no matter what, right? When David came to kill him, she was the one who's like, you know what? I know how this man is. Let me just see if I could go and rectify the situation and do whatever I needed to do, right? So you now as a Christian woman cannot say I am not submitting to this person because judgment begins at home, right? Judgment begins with you first. As a Christian, you are supposed to say, hey, I am going to be obedient to the word of God no matter how much this man is not the best leader, because I, in all of my free will, decided to choose an idiot. You supposed to be unbeliever. You are supposed to be smart enough to make certain decisions. Nobody held a gun to your head and said, well, hey, go with Jackson.
Jackson got a bad rap there, boy.
Listen, I like how she just call name, you know, she just drop name on me.
Hard luck, boy, Jackson. Well, I want to say a couple of things to respond to you there. In that, one of the scriptures in question is Colossians 3:18 that says, "Wives submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord." So this is this is recompense for women. That means you ain't just had to go and just look to follow and submit to any old backside out there, calling the shots and living anyhow you want. This thing say as is fitting in the Lord. So that means if your husband that you submit to wants you to do something foolish, that ungodly, or don't make no sense as far as God is concerned, you don't have to submit and go down that road like an idiot. That is not necessary. And also, and this is one of the taboo issues concerning women. And also, I've seen the comments there. One commenter is asking if submission is
Part of the definition of
part of the
femininity.
definition of what femininity is. So basically, I think what she's asking is if whether submission is a mandatory thing to be considered, acting as a normal, within the normal confines of what is feminine, what is accepted to be feminine. So that kind of ties into what I'm about to say too, which is that yes, you're expected to behave a particular way, but it's as is fitting to the Lord. And also, when you're making these choices, because there's a taboo topic for women. Women don't want to submit because it's like, I'm not giving away my all my rights over to some man to dominate me and to make me a doormat, and so I had to live like a imps and just do whatever this man wants. I didn't fight, all my ancestors didn't fight all this time, all this woman liberation, for me to have to now come for this man to control my life. I've not done that. My mother is an independent woman. My father grew me up as an independent young woman, and no man dictated my pace to that extent. So we have to keep in mind that if you expect men to hold you to that standard, you are to consider now that it have a standard attached to the men too. So if you don't find somebody who willing to do their part, their job in that scenario, then you don't submit to that man, because the Bible also saying in Ephesians 5, husbands love your wife just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So I don't know how much men or know that willing to give themselves up literally for their wife. So if you don't find a man like that, then for heaven's sake, don't marry the man now, and don't submit to him. So it's not like you're selling away your rights as a woman to just anybody. The man have a job too, and if you don't find somebody who willing to do his part, then you don't need to do your part. Stay single, relax yourself, and wait until I get somebody who willing to do that very difficult job that is the man's responsibility, which, to be honest, if you really read the rest of Ephesians 5, much more difficult than just kicking back and saying, you go ahead, boss, you in charge.
And that's the thing, I think we kind of hit the nail. I don't know the phrase, the phrasing, hit the nail on the head with the hammer. I don't know. But
Krista,
we, in today's age, we
Krista,
have the... Yes, Aaron.
sweetheart, I wanted to say something just now, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Listen, just unmute your mic for a second, please. Something I just want to ask you. You said something about women being independent, right? And she don't well, I believe you was talking about modern day feminism, right? Well, not feminism, but modern day women. How they is these days, basically, right? The question I wanna ask is this, right? Well, I'm gonna be plain and say it, right? And if anybody thinking like that, then they're foolish.
Thinking
Well,
like
boy,
Please
brother,
ask,
it are plenty foolish people out here if that's the case. Because I
ask
think
me
that
why,
is the
please.
vast majority
Ask me
thinking
why.
like that.
why?
Right. Glad that you asked me why. Right? No, this is my argument, right? All right, you don't want to submit to a husband. That's all well and good, right? It's all fine. But what women don't recognize is that majority of the company owners are men. So regardless of what, when you go to work for a company, you're working for a man, you're submitting to a different kind of man. So how could you say you're not going to? All right. So how could you make the argument that you're not going to submit, right, to a husband when you're going and submit to a boss who probably go even talk to you or treat you worse than a husband, and you're still is still the same is still the same devil on a different level. If you understand what I say.
I think I could answer that on behalf of women. I'll do my best. Ladies, bear with me. I think the women go look at it as two different things, right? Because from the perspective of women, they're going to work, and they're doing the same thing the men doing. The men submitting themselves to authority figures the same way, but they're doing it in exchange for a wage. They're doing it for something in return. But the modern woman looks at the relationship as a co-leadership. So it's something they do by choice. I make a decision to partner with you as an equal partner going forward. So that as far as they're concerned, we could progress and we could make decisions together. I don't need to submit to you for us to have a good functioning and beneficial relationship for the both of you. I could be just as much the boss as you's the boss. Unlike on my job where I had to submit, sure, but at the end of the day, I submitted for something I agreeing on in advance. And quite frankly, if you're working in the same place, you have to do the same thing I doing too. So it's not a male and female, it's not a woman thing. In the workplace is a authority thing, and is a hierarchy thing. It's not a gender thing. But in the relationship, it's a gender thing, and the modern woman just don't see the necessity for doing that. So I guess that would beg the question: why submit? What's the advantages? What's the reason to submit? Maybe that is the question we should be tackling.
I humbly disagree with the answer you just given. Just
Oh,
well, let me move on. Since we're on the topic of
listen.
submission, right? It's only fair that we ask this question right after. Has feminism, has feminism, right? Has feminism bettered women's role in society, or did it actually put them at a disadvantage?
Okay, so I just wanted to say something on this submission thing again, right?
Mm.
Before we just move on to that. The commenter asks, is submission part of the definition of femininity? And in my opinion, I'm going to say no, because femininity is every woman is supposed to be feminine, whether she is a wife or not, she is supposed to be feminine. But submission only comes when you are married. You understand? So submission cannot be part of the definition of femininity. And just to, throw this out there, the Bible says, wives submit to your husbands, not women submit to men, and not girlfriend submit to your boyfriend. I just wanted to put that out there. All right. And now on to the feminism thing. Has feminism done its best to help women and vice versa? Right. Well, there are many levels to it. First of all, if we really look up what feminism was meant to do and be, we will say, yes, feminism has helped women because I can own a business, I can vote, I can make my own decisions, I can work, I can do, right? However, what feminism is pushing now is very unhealthy, and it is okay. There was actually a quote by someone. Only I should really look up these quotes, right? And give Ole who say it and thing.
It would help.
There was a quote by someone that said feminism is literally and she was a big person in the movement. She said that feminism is basically them wanting to wipe out men. You understand? So we don't need men anymore. We can do it. We are the new men, and that's all.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
I mean, sometimes that's true.
No, that's what they. I thought you was to disagree. I agree with that.
Is your
That was
skin
your
like
robot voice there?
Chris, say talking to?
Yeah, you say that? I would look away and I swear it's like some kind of recording that you play or something. You
Oh
do
no,
that?
that was me. Yeah.
Wow. You could be one of them voice on the telephone.
Listen, I have
Please
fight
hang
like
up and
that
try
too.
your call again.
So yeah, that is my take on it. I don't think that feminism originally wanted to help women, but these women just take it overboard. They just gone clear with it, and it's like, really?
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Can I respond as well to that?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so the initial, because they broke it down in waves, right? They broke it down into 4 waves. So the first 2 waves, as Jay described earlier about, well, just now, about the right to vote, own property, rights to your own body, those types of things, I agree with. Like, I support those types of feminists, right? But around the 3rd to and 4th wave, that's when they started questioning gender identities, and that's when they wanted to separate, I believe, femininity, like challenge it at least. Do women have to be feminine? And then that's, I think, when the wave of the feminists who believe that women are better than men, or let me quote it properly. On Wikipedia says that around that time, that is when women decided that, all right, they refuse to acknowledge any differences between men and women. So they believe that, all right, all men and all women are equal. There are no differences whatsoever. And so around those times, the 3rd and the 4th wave, that's when things start to get problematic for me. Now, personally, I have found 3 problems with the feminist movement today. Okay. Number 1 is it failed and continues to fail to protect femininity or feminine roles, such as housewives. So I don't know if you remember, but there was a big time, a time in a period of time, sorry, when housewives would get bullied or shamed for submitting to a man, or
Right?
well, actually, it's not lightening up these days. A little bit. Okay, no, all right. So even currently, then that women were shamed or bullied for either working at home or submitting to a man, not having they would call it not having any prospects or drive or anything purpose. And then it also praises masculinity or masculine traits in women. So that's number one. Another reason I found another problem, sorry, I found was that, and I touched on it. A good portion believe that there are absolutely no differences between men and women, but that's only beneficial to them. So um, you'll hear feminists like, "Oh my gosh, my money is my money, and his money is my money, and you know what? Equal rights, guys, equal rights." But then he still had to open the door for you. He still had to take out the trash. He still had to pay for the first date, right? Equal rights, but you still have to pay for the first date. You still have to take out the trash. You still have to do all the heavy lifting. You still have to fight in war.
You understand? Don't forget, you still have to run downstairs when it have a noise downstairs. You have to run downstairs with baseball bat 2 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you. But then the one to say, "Oh well, I don't need a man to protect me. I could protect myself." But anyway,
And
Until
and
the
the
this
last,
cockroach start to fly.
and
like
this
me right in.
about the independence. How independent are you?
True.
Boy, I want to respond to that. I want
Just
to
hold on.
respond to this.
The last
Let,
issue
let,
that
let
I
us do
found
that.
is that it produces delusional, and this one is a tough one. It produces delusional individuals. Okay, and this goes across to I listen. I think these women and other types of human beings are delusional in a sense. They believe that everything is supposed to be handed to them. Some of them believe that everything's supposed to be handed to them, that they don't actually believe in fairness. Um and I think the further along this conversation we get, you'll see how it produces delusional individuals. And I believe that this weakens a society when people are confused. That's it, confused and delusional. When people are confused, or when a society, a business, a household is confused, it is not productive, right? And it weakens the family, it weakens the business, it weakens the society. And I think feminism has a part a part to play in the world's confusion and the weakening of society. So those are my problems I see with feminism. My notes all over the place. Sorry.
You was going to say somebody else was
You
going to
wanted
say
to
something.
respond?
Yes, yes. I would love to respond. This is a pet peeve of mine, so I would love to respond. I didn't even need to prepare for this conversation that we have in here right now. Here, I didn't know where to start. The first thing is, like I agree with what you say. Feminism definitely came from a good place. We were in a society where women definitely needed representation. They were underrepresented, and it started off as something that was meant to not to empower women, but just to give them basic rights. Women couldn't even vote. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of things women needed representation in the public, and they just needed somebody to take care of them, to secure them, to protect them, and to give them the basic rights, equal rights. And that was that was where femininity start. Sorry, that was where feminism started, and the world was behind it. It wasn't a woman thing. It was a worldwide campaign, and that's what make it grow out of proportion, because because they got the support of the world, it start becoming about other things like equality of outcome, which is a horrendous issue that the world faces today, because everyone wants equality of opportunity. We want everybody to have the same opportunities, and in a capitalist society we live in, the ideal thing is that if everyone has the same opportunities, then the best people will get the best opportunities, and they'll be the most efficient ones because they are the most suitable for the jobs or for whatever roles. But it started becoming a thing now, men versus women. So now they want equality of outcome. They find if it have 100 male CEOs, it should have 100 female CEOs. So that throw equality of opportunity out the door, because now they have a necessity to provide the same amount of positions to women as to men. It doesn't matter if it have 100 positions and it have 100 men more qualified for the positions. They have to give 50 to women and 50 to men to to appease the feminists. So that is one of the issues we have, and because it become now a power struggle is now man versus woman. There was a saying in the 70s or the 80s that said women need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That is an actual slogan that feminists used to have on placards and on T-shirts. I'm not lying. Women
Wait,
need
no,
a
they
man
actually
like a
say this like verbally.
yeah, yes. This was a spoken thing, and it have others that worse than that. But that was one of the most popular and most ridiculous ones. They're saying women need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Basically, they're saying women don't need men at all, and that's still what they're saying. Because as far as they're concerned, now feminism has become a thing that says that men and the world is a patriarchy and tyrannical, and we represent as men, something that negative, something that has a bad and negative stereotype attached to it. But like I was saying before, you had to ask yourself how much equality really makes sense. Because if equality makes so much sense, all you shouldn't want me to open no door for you, and all you shouldn't want me to pay on the dates. And when we banded downstairs, I find we should draw straws to see who going downstairs with the cutlass. It should not be me. Listen, I afraid cockroach too, so I had to be the one to kill it when it's flying. You go and kill it. I mean, everything else. Fires, I had to go and what happened? So I can't get one.
No, you can't
And
get one.
yeah.
You
When
listen,
it's
you're
time for war,
indestructible.
I ain't seen no man fighting to run in the front of the line and on the front lines on the battlefield, because I ain't seen no feminists. When the war start, where feminism does go?
In the kitchen.
Yeah, it go in the kitchen happy without a complaint. It in the kitchen, it in the kitchen,
So
busting
true.
red bean in the pressure cooker. But all the time, feminism is a big thing. Eh? But as soon as I war, it ain't no more feminism. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Let me
Consider
see.
all are we out.
That's when they
Yeah,
decide to recognize that men are important
Let me
When
or useful.
go
you are
ahead.
not saying something.
No, I
No, go
wanted to
ahead,
When
add
Aaron.
to what you were saying, right?
sorry.
I wanted
Mm,
to add to what you were saying, basically, right? Well, you touch on most of the things I was going to touch on, right? Um, what really is my not I ain't gonna really say it's an issue with me concerning feminism, because really and truly, if somebody want to identify as a feminist, that is your stand thing. But just like you say, just like a, just like you say, right? If he's a feminist and let me say he's my friend, okay, then you will do whatever you have to do. I'm not doing nothing fair. You understand me? But here's my little issue with feminism. When it comes to women who actually want to build and structure a family and run a household and do them kind of stuff, them the feminists like to shame them, right? The feminists like to shame them. And to me, it's just like this. Okay, you make your decision for yourself, right? Why do you feel the need to drag somebody else in what you believe in, right? This term toxic masculinity, right? The only toxic masculinity I know is when you like to beat women. That is toxically masculine, right? Because you will never watch a soldier fighting a war and say he's toxically masculine, right? You will never watch your husband or your father trying to defend you from a burglar or from a Rottweiler or something and say, watch out, my father defending me. He toxically masculine. You understand? You will never do that. You understand me? It's very selective in what they want to label as bad and what they want to label as good. You understand what I said? And something Krista touched on earlier, I want to remember the specific phrase that she used. Oh well, I will remember at some point in time in the show. Right, but that's all I wanted to add to what you was saying there, brother. So you can continue if you choose to.
Yeah, well, I think you're spot on there. Because like I was saying, if you really want if feminism is about equality, then you should want you should want to be in a situation where everybody getting the same treatment all the time. But the question is, do we really want that? You know, you gotta ask women if they just want the beneficial things. You only want the nice things, but when it have difficult things that men typically take care of on behalf of women and on behalf of the world, women don't want no part of them things. Even if it's a matter of positions, do women really want to compete with men for these positions, these high profile positions in capitalist environments in the industry? Or is it that they feel they should be gifted there by default because men always had them in the past? But when you have to compete against men who can't get pregnant, who don't take no maternity leave, who does work longer hours than you, who does work outside, more willing to work outside than you, who does take less days off than you, and them fellas more qualified to do the job as a result of some of them factors. What is your position? Now, if you don't want to compete and you find we should just give you the job because it's a matter of equality, then that don't make no sense because the best people for the job may not get the job. Now, if you want to work as hard as the man and you want to give up your family possibilities and don't get pregnant and give up all the different things that men would be willing to sacrifice to get in positions, then sure. And you're willing to work the long hours like the men willing to work, you're willing to take
Power
no
to you.
days off, then more power to you. Go ahead. We will give you the job. But that's simply not the case. And that argument could be extended to other things that women like to champion, like the difference in pay, the supposed pay gap, is as a result of those things too. Companies have to take into consideration all those things, you know. So here's my question on this topic that I think kind of pertinent. What we could touch on is gender roles and things like personality differences. What do you all think are the personality differences and life pursuits between genders? Like whether it's a matter of sociology, in other words, we're talking now about what does make a woman, if it's biology, if it's taught behavior, or sociology, or if it's just, if it's something deeper than that. Is that something you're born with? The difference in personality between women and the things that women pursue versus the things men pursue. For instance, just to give you all an example, you don't see that many women masons or women carpenters, and you don't see that many male nurses or male psychologists, right? So you don't see much men in modern studies, and you don't see much women in STEM fields. So, what's your thoughts on that as we are on the subject of femininity and the argument that the feminists make too, which is that everybody should be able to do anything at any time.
Okay, so yeah, to make sure I was on mute. Right. So, all right. Just to simplify it, you mean product of your environment, or what or what people instilled in you, like that kind of thing, right? Right. The
Yeah, whether
choices
it's a
that you make.
product environment or where it was taught, or whether it's something that just built into women.
So like nature versus nurture.
Yes.
So you see, this one is kind of difficult because I will say that my nieces, I'll use them as an example, right? My nieces may decide that, hey, I want to be a construction worker, right? But they are surrounded by a lot of women, and neither of us are into construction, right? And one of them, so yes, one of them may decide they want to be a construction worker. The next one may decide that she wants to be a hairdresser or something like that, right? A masculine field and a feminine field, right? And I truly believe it all boils down to what you find fascinating. Because a lot of women will choose perceived female fields because that is what society, so I'm touching on this societal one now. That is what society says you need to do. Like you wouldn't if it's a boy, most likely he wouldn't say, okay, let me go and be a secretary. Because people will say, no, secretaries are for, the secretary position is for a woman, right? And as you said, you may not see a lot of male nurses because traditionally these things go to women, right? Just like you wouldn't see many female construction workers because these things are pushed towards men or female race car drivers because these things are pushed towards men. However, I believe that if my daughter wants to become a race car driver, a mason, something that is considered male, a male field, I wouldn't discourage that because I know that you could possibly have a greater purpose, right? And you can become one of the best, whatever it is, right? One of the best masons or one of the best architects or construction workers or whatever, right? I wouldn't discourage that because I truly do not believe that no, certain things she will need the strength of a man to do, right? Like mixing concrete or something like that. But in my mind, that shouldn't prevent her from wanting to become a construction worker. Because I don't think that we as babies grow up saying, hey, no, I can't be a fireman or whatever because usually boys do that. Or I can't be in the army because boys do that, right? Or I can't be a fashion designer because girls do that. Or you understand what I'm saying? We as babies, we don't grow up, or as little children, we don't grow up thinking that until somebody puts it in your mind. Hey, what are you doing drawing a shirt? You see how ridiculous it is because fashion designers, men fashion designers, also create male clothes, right? But they will say, no, fashion design is a female field, right? And so I don't think we as human beings grow up thinking this is a male field and that, well, start off thinking this is a male field and that is a female field. I really think the adults push children in those directions, into what they believe is male and female. Just like wearing blue, wearing pink, wearing purple, wearing yellow. You understand what I'm saying? So I really think these gender roles and things, or these pursuits, these career pursuits, are really things that society push onto women or push onto little girls.
And I would have to say that I agree with everything that Jade said because I was about to say the same thing that Jade just said. Because when I was younger, my aunts would always bring Barbies and the things you just cook with now, the place set to cook. And when you ask me what I want a car. Do you understand? I want a car. You bring in Barbie for me. What I going to do with Barbie? I don't want a Barbie. So this is just something that they push. You wouldn't look at the cook set and say, maybe my son might like this. Maybe he could be the best chef in the world. No, because women supposed to cook. Therefore, women cook. You wouldn't if you pick up his sister, whoever Dolly, and start to cut up the hair and it look nice, you'd be like, what you doing that for? That is for your sister to do to fix hair. Victoria's Secret is a man. You know,
That was the secret.
That is the secret. The secret is a man. He know what he wants on a woman and what the woman should look like. So
You don't mean that literally, right?
No, he was a man. The
The
creator. The creator.
Serious?
Yes.
Not a woman.
Well, why, if he make it to have mad again, I'm on a bounce, man. On behalf of all men, thanks.
So, like Jade said, it is a societal thing. It's something that that is pushed onto you when you reach a certain age or from young. Because if everybody in my house, when I grow up, I as a boy, everybody in my house is a ballet dancer. If I decide I want to be a ballet dancer, society watch me like, what are you talking about? You want a ballet? But that is what I grew up with, and probably I didn't know anything else because that is what I knew. You understand?
Or
So it kind
gravitated to.
of or gravitated to. I mean, it's kind of weird to see men do ballet, but they are very strong. I ain't gonna lie, and it is looking real good too. I ain't lying. But anyhow, yes, it's just a
So
society thing. It's just a society thing.
I would like to agree with you, Jade, and just add a little bit. I think what we need to do is kind of differentiate your job and who you are as an individual in terms of like, just because I want to be a police officer, I don't want to be a police officer, but just because I want to go down a masculine role or job or whatever does not mean I can't still be feminine. I can't, that doesn't mean that I'm a butch woman or I am this or that, right? And the same thing goes for men. You don't, just because you gravitate towards cutting hair or creating clothing does not automatically mean you're gay, because that's something we do in society as well. We say, hey, boy, you cutting clothes, you real gay boy, you real gay. That you like ballet, you gay, and we use it as a sort of insult to sort of bully and shift people, young people, to what society deems as right. But what I think we should do is say, all right, you know what? You like cutting hair, you like cutting clothes. Understand you might be around more women. So, because you know how society can also shame you, right? The environments that we, put ourselves in or allow ourselves to be in can sometimes shame us, because we as people a kind of pack mentality. Like, we have that kind of pack mentality. Oh, I want to go with the crowd. So we want to be accepted. But I think what we have to raise our children to understand is, A, okay, you like cutting clothes, understand, all right. The field is dominated by women, all right? And this is how you maintain your masculinity. You don't have to be feminine. Like, you don't you know how when you are surrounded by women, you might take on attributes and characteristics of a woman, or when you are surrounded by a bunch of dudes, you're like, you sit different, you move different, you talk different. I have brothers. Anyway, so I think what we need to do is just say, all right, this does not make you, this is not who you are, and let's see how we can nurture both things. Let's see how we can allow, I don't want to discourage you from being this, because this could be your God-given purpose. You don't know, right? We don't know. God could have said, hey, my child, be a tailor. My child, be a ballet dancer. Whatever, right? This could have been your purpose. And then because society says it's gay or it's wrong, going to say like, nah, don't do this. Do this instead. A lot of people are dissatisfied with life because they don't pursue their purposes. And I think once we differentiate and we stop saying, all right, this is a masculine trait, or this is a masculine role, as in thing, and this is a feminine role, and then nurture the masculinity in the individual himself and nurture the femininity in the individual outside of that job or whatever, I think that will be better for society. I hope I was clear.
All right, I
Kieran,
have
you
a
have anything on this subject? Or Jade? Okay.
No comments.
Well, boy, I ready for it. But Jade, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, because I was just going to ask a question that would thing it out.
Change the subject. Okay, well, let me get the flames out of the way and let you know one time I disagree entirely. And I'll tell you why. Well, the first thing is this, right? It's not a matter of whether or not it's okay for women to have interest in roles or in fields that are typically dominated by men, or vice versa. That is fine. But the question was asking is whether you think that the likelihood of a woman choosing a particular field or interest is based on what society pushes on them, or whether it's a or whether it's a intrinsic thing of being a woman, more biological. It's not whether it
To
wrong, So the question wasn't saying that if you do like something, men like that is a wrong thing. That is not what I was saying. I was saying, that's usually not the case. So the question is, why will you think that is often not the case? Whether it's a societal issue, or it's a biological issue. So I get the impression that even though they spend most of the time talking about the fact that it's okay for a woman to like something that's typically a masculine role. I agree with that. But um, the question here is, well, okay. So my stance on it really is this, is that it's not a societal thing. It's a biological thing. And I'll tell you why I think so. In Okay, well, if it's a societal thing, then we should look at it from this perspective. If we were able to find societies where you eliminate that teaching, that pushes particular things on men and particular things on women, you would expect that you would see a more of an equality taking place. You'll expect that you'll see more women in STEM fields. You'll expect to see more men in modern studies, more men in social sciences, more men in healthcare and them kind of thing, and home care and that kind of thing, right? So the most well, equal societies is something that's called an egalitarian society. So the most egalitarian societies in the world is Scandinavia. Scandinavia is a part of Europe where they push um, gender equality more than any other area in the world. And that's the most egalitarian society by far, far, far. So if it are any place in the world that women equal, which is, if we have to be honest, nowhere, but that is the place that closest, right? And it actually has statistical data that study that society that says that in Scandinavia, differences between men and women increase instead of decrease. And you would think that the perspective that the three of you have, which is that society is really what is promote these choices. Well, if you go to a place where societies do the least to promote these choices, or they actually do the opposite and encourage freedom of choice, and they don't promote, hey, this is boy thing and this is girl thing, you would expect to see more women doing the things men just typically do, and more men doing things women just typically do. But in truth, in those societies, you actually see the needle going the opposite direction. You actually see more men doing what men typically do. You see a greater percentage of men in the STEM fields and a greater percentage of women in the women dominated fields. So that what does that say? That actually says to us that society is not the reason. So it had to have some other reason. And if it's not society, it had to be if we had to be honest, it had to be biology. So I had to disagree with Oli on the fact that society is who pushes those agendas, which is true. Society does push those agendas, but I don't think that is the determining factor uh, at the end of the day. Because if that was the case in Scandinavia, we'd have not been seeing these types of results, and it's commonly accepted studies that anybody could check.
just now,
But
let me just
I have,
Go ahead, Jade. Go ahead, because I wanted to ask a question.
okay. Okay. You are saying that it is not society that pushes that because in these Scandinavian countries, um, women will just ups and choose to do a female field, and men will ups and choose to.
yes,
Okay,
more than you're seeing in Western societies, and that society even more equal than everywhere else in the world. So they
okay,
just make
but
an effort not to have and not to push anything, any agendas, not to program women, not to program men.
okay, right. So this is my thing now. They are not making the effort to push those roles on the men and the women, right? However, if this has been going on for hundreds of years, right? If this has been going on for a very long time, and then I know I'm a woman, and I know that my mother is in a traditionally female role, right? Then I will become a product of my environment, which is society, right? Which means that I will also go and do a female role because that is all I am seeing, that is all I know, right? And also, what else I wanted to say is that the Amerindians, right, they literally they had different roles. I can't remember if it's the Kalinagos or the Tainos, but they had different, yeah, they had different roles, right? The men used to go out and hunt and all these different things, and then the woman would go and do what we will still consider a male role, which is go and plant a field and be out in the hot sun and see about the crops and all these different things, right? If it weren't for society, as you are saying, then I don't think that those women would want to go out in the field and plant their crops and all these different things. But because society is telling them, hey, this is your role, you are to go out and plant them crops, then she goes out and plant the crops. Because in the other Amerindian societies, the woman will not go out and plant crops. They will sit and they will make baskets and they will prepare the jewelry and the paint and all of that, right? Which means that society really has a big part to play in whether or not we decide to do something. Being honest, I want to mix concrete. I
Jade,
want to make concrete. But I went and I said, I really want to make concrete. But I went and I said, can I help you mix this concrete, sir? And the sir looked at me and he said, no, you can't mix concrete. Neither for woman, you have to go inside and make the paint out. You
Understood.
understand what I'm saying?
Jade, I
Understood.
agree
Now,
with
keep
you,
in
eh?
mind.
I
Go
pick
ahead,
up the
Shanti.
thing to mix the concrete and they come and take it out of my hand and say, go inside and drink some water for me, please.
Now, I'm not disputing that these things exist. Society does place pressure on men and pressure on women to function in particular roles. But don't miss the fact that I'm telling you, we're talking about the society that puts the most emphasis of any society in the world to eliminate those problems. So, at the very least, what we should see is that they should be trending in the opposite direction. But the research says that not only are they not trending in the opposite direction, but they're actually more extreme than the Western society that we live in. So, we're talking in these societies that making a concerted effort to eliminate the things that cause, as far as you're concerned, women and men to choose the things they choose. Women and men choosing the things they normally choose to even greater extreme. So,
they
how you
would
contem-
normally
you
choose
know,
to. Okay.
how you compensating for that? That is what you have to take into consideration. It shouldn't be worse. It should
So
at
you
least be a
mean
little better.
because of our biological need to nurture and to teach or whatever, whatever, we gravitate more, or at least in that society, women gravitate more towards the teaching roles, the nurturing, the nursery teacher, those type of roles, those caregiving roles, and
Yes, because
men.
the argument is that when you eliminate all these societal pressures, the things that is make you determine what you want to do is now simply based on how you feel alone. So you don't have nothing or nobody pressuring you. Now it's just, well, psychology then, you could argue, which is
Just
the five big personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Those five things combined, whichever side of the scale you land on, is what is determined what choices you want to make, and what you want to do is what is control your behavior.
okay, okay. So
My
go ahead, Mia.
original, my original opinion was um, something based on what Emerson say and also some based on what Jade say. Right? The thing about it is, yes, society does play a role, but you see, where I agree with Emerson is that when men talking to other men, and for in Trinidadian terms, they getting clong from other men, right? They just get pushed to do certain other things that might be considered manly, right? And I mean, I wasn't a wrong enough woman to know this, but I know that women does do real dirt to other women too. So it's like to go on what Emerson saying. I mean, if I see a male nurse, I go clog him. You understand? Me? I go clog a male nurse. You understand? Me? Because what I see is come on. You dig? So yeah, it had to be a little bit of both. right? To me, it had to be a little bit taboo because it's really and honestly, we does male and female, and sometimes even male and female and female and male, let's clone one another and push to move for us to do certain things. I say, you know, come from me car wash out.
You're muted, you're
A big
muted.
Well,
boy.
you make me turn off my fan, so you know. I'll be in here.
But I have just a slight question, not to like, argue or anything like that, but in this is Scandinavia, right? You said that they gravitated to what men usually men gravitated to the stronger, the more heavy lifting roles, and women gravitated to more the nurturing roles, right?
More, yeah, more than
So yeah,
usual.
more than usual. But there were people men who gravitated to feminine roles and
Yes, yes,
feminine role.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, which I
I
say like
think
before, nothing wrong with that.
yeah. Okay. I think what I just wanted to say is that because society has a lot of no, don't do this, no, don't do that. I think that was what I was more speaking about, the fact that it 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 stops you or bullies you into something, right? Especially in the Western side, I think it. Well, actually, no, not just the Western side, not just the Western side, but it bullies you into something, even though it's not what you gravitated to. Like, okay, you were born a boy, but you gravitated, as I said earlier, tailoring. Making clothes. Society might say, "Hey, don't do that because that's a feminine rule," instead of saying, "Hey, I mean, you could do it, but let's see how we keep you in your masculine structure whilst you are surrounded by all these women." That's what I was more talking about, because the roles and the jobs that we take on aren't necessarily, yes, our biology plays a part, but it's not necessarily what all of us humans will gravitate to, based on our biology. We might gravitate based on our desires or what we see around us, based on what's in our society, right? And so I was just speaking to more of the bullying part of society that tells you, no, you can't do this because of XYZ. But let's move this conversation along.
I have a question,
Hit me,
right?
hit me.
Okay, so we're talking about feminism, we're talking about women being in the corporate world and wanting to be equal to men and all these different things. First of all, I want to address something, right? We are all equal in the sight of God. However, our roles are different and they are equally as important. That is how I see it. Because I refuse to live my life thinking that I am subhuman because I am a woman. All right? One of them. I just had to say that. Right. So, to my actual question, is it sinful for a woman to pursue and aim to be at the top of her game when it comes to corporate ventures?
I mean, she could do whatever she wanted to do.
I don't think it's a sin.
Now, that's my answer. She could do whatever she wanted to do.
And I agree with Aaron. I don't think it's a sin. I just think this is where the delusion kind of comes in and the confusion comes in, right? The world teaches us we could have it all without any limitations or without any consequences or anything like that. And the fact of the matter is, at least I believe that we can't. There must be some balance, some measure of things. So if you want to be at the top of the field, let's say you want to make CFO, that requires a lot of drive, that requires a lot of time, effort, all of these things. Now, if you as a woman find that you are able to, oh, sorry, and that same woman might want to be a mother and a wife, right? That same woman might want to be a mother and a wife. Now, if you as a woman think that, all right, I could go in this male dominated field and conquer it all, and then come home, turn on that femininity, and be that wife, be submissive to your husband, and be a mother to your children, then girl, more power to you. I don't know how you're doing it. I don't know how you're up in the CFO office and at the same time with the child, maybe have a daycare, something downstairs. I don't know, right? More power to you. But I think some reality needs to come into play. All right. If you want to do that, sure. There's like that doesn't mean you're sinning or anything like that. You don't have to be married. You don't have to be a mother. You could be single. You could be, but it's a choice that you make. You want to be a wife? Be a wife. You want to be a mother? Be a wife first and then be a mother. Um, if you want to be single, be single.
But
So
and we as Christian women, and we called to be wives and mothers. Isn't that part of the role of being a Christian woman?
no, not necessarily.
No.
Not an
Thank you.
expectation, because we have so many things that some
It's an
extremists will say.
expectation of society, maybe.
No,
Paul,
I'm saying the extremists will say that you as a Christian woman, you are called to be a wife and a mother. So they will say that it is sinful when you aim to pursue these things, because then it will mean that you are not able to see about your primary responsibility, which is being a wife and a mother. Some of them will literally say, do not even go to university, because what you're doing there, that is not for you.
Or
I
some of
feel
them
them
would say,
reading.
go ahead, Emerson.
I feel them reading. Them Bible must be right on a napkin or something. Because Paul was real franco in the Bible when he was telling women. He was saying, listen, I wish all you could have be like me and be single. And he was explaining that the disadvantage of being a married woman is that when he's a married Christian woman, your attention devoted between trying to think about what God wants you to accomplish and pleasing your husband and helping your husband. So it'd be better for you if you don't have both responsibilities and you stick with the one that is really the responsibility that you're called to have as a Christian, which is whatever is God's purpose for your life. So Paul was actually recommending against marriage. And he did so for women before men. He addressed the women first, and then he says so for men too. So actually, the opposite of what society implies, that this thing that woman supposed to attach herself to a man and marry and have children, and that is your main responsibility as a woman. That is false. Your main responsibility as a Christian woman is whatever your purpose in Christ is. And if that could align with marriage and a family, then by all means, or if you as an individual can remain single and put yourself in, and you might put yourself in monkey pants, then and you find a nice young man that you could align whose vision you could align with, please by all means get married. But Paul was saying in the Bible, if you could stay single and concentrate your efforts on God and His purpose for your life, it'll be more productive for the kingdom if you just stay unmarried. So that's not true at all. Anybody that thinks that is normal to be pressured into being a wife and a mother.
I I actually will look at it from the virtuous woman, virtuous wife perspective, because she is not the one who's get up early and go in the field and do all those things. Isn't she in that case a businesswoman? So that means she is doing that as well as being the wife she's supposed to be. So then how could it be sinful if I want to be at the top of my game on where I am? Maybe my purpose is to be at the top of the game where I am and still take care of my family. You can't tell me it's sinful.
Well, you see, it's because they will say, right? They will say that you cannot be at the top of your game without sacrificing something. And being at the top of your game means late nights, early mornings, and I'm not seeing my family. Right? And then they will still use the same virtuous woman scripture and
Scripture.
say, they will say, what yeah, she had her businesses and whatnot, but if you look at it, it's because she also put her husband and children first. You understand? She didn't neglect them at all. But in today's society, most of the time, for a woman to be on top of her game in the business world, it means that, yeah, well, I have to sacrifice something and I can't stay home to breastfeed nobody child, not even mine. You understand? I can't stay home to breastfeed no children. I can't really take maternity leave. I'm continuously working with this grind culture because I would like to be at the top of my game. And when that happens, it means that you're sacrificing something at home. So that is just their perspective that I am, you know, giving to you all to think about.
But my thing is, who says that at the top of your game means that you are the top of the field in terms of beating out man and saying, all right, this is the thing. Now,
No,
what
well,
if
it don't have to be beating out
no, but that's
men.
what no, that's no, but the thing is, top of your game, if you're beating all the rest of your competitors, which in whatever field you choose, most likely it's going to be a male. Well, if it's in the business world, it's the male field, right? And so you're beating out men, you're competing with men who don't have to stay home or don't carry children or any of these things. So my thing for women is who says that the top of your game has to mean that you are beating out men to be the CFO, the SUF. If that's your God given purpose, all right, cool, whatever, right? But I think some women do it to beat men, to be like, I've done it, I've conquered man. Anything they could do, I've got it. I could do it better, and they lose the track of their family because some of them have the desire to be mothers, and you ask them, I want to be a mother, I am a mother, I love being a mother, I love being a wife. But then when you ask, or if you ask their husbands or their children, how effective are they as wives, as mothers? So they have the desire, but they're not nurturing it, they're not being at the top of their game there. So my question is, who says? And I think it's rhetorical. A rhetorical question.
Go ahead.
What I always say is this, right? If you want to go to push for the top of your game, by all means, do your thing and let nobody judge you for it, right? But the moment you decide to have a family, right, certain things need to be put into perspective. Now, I'm saying this, and this is what I believe. If you are on the road to be on the top of your game and you decide to have a family, a child, a wife, or whatever the case may be, then your family, or let me say, because since we were talking about women and husband, right? Then your family comes first. You can't be a slave to two masters. Because if in order to push for something to be the top of your game, right? All right, let me use church first, right? Churches are Sunday, you're pushing, or let me say churches someday in the week, right? You're pushing for the to meet a certain quota to keep being on the top of your game because it's a constant thing you have to keep working on, right? Then at some point in time you're going to have to miss church too, or you're going to have to miss Bible study. No matter what it is, what other secular thing, well, I shouldn't say secular, but what other engagement you have besides working on this thing, going and have to take a L at some point in time, right? And that is one of the reasons why when men do certain things, right? Why when men pushing for a certain rank or a certain goal, they don't want a woman. Well, I'm speaking about me personally, yeah, don't want a woman who is working. They would want somebody who would stay home all the time, right? And really and truly, if a woman pushing to be on the top of she game, if the husband want to stay home all the time, it's fine. I mean, if they want that kind of dynamic in their household, it's fine. But I ain't really see too much men going and settle for something like that. And that's just my little input on it.
Okay, so, all right. I still have to disagree with Krista when it comes to saying that being at the top of your game means you're beating out men. Because one is according to what you define as the top of your game, and two, it is also according to the industry. Because if you're in business, you also have to be a part of a certain industry, right? And not all industries are male dominated, right? So that's that. Second of all, if we still leaning on the extremist view, then they have a point when they say that trying to be at the top of your game is sinful because with everything that you all are saying there, you all are also saying that you are not supposed to neglect your family, right? You're not supposed to neglect your family. You have to see about your husband as a woman, well, as a wife, and you have to see about your children as a wife. Those are the instructions given to women. The older women need to teach the younger women to see about their husband and children. And if you ain't doing that, then it means that somewhere along the way your priorities mixed up, right? My thing is as well, concerning the neglecting of the children and husband. Well, in this way, I wouldn't really neglect them. But remember the virtuous woman, she had servants, right? So she was a top tier businesswoman, but she also had servants. And I mean, clearly we all know what servants are for. However, she had to ensure that these servants knew, all right, this is what my husband does eat from or he don't eat. This is how my children behave. And, she had to be on top of her household duties even when she was a top tier businesswoman. You understand? So all they are saying is that, and these people could get with this whole don't go to university thing, that's nonsense. But yeah, all they are saying is that, all right, if you want to do your thing, but just know you cannot neglect your family at all, right? Which brings me to my other question, or Emerson wanted to say something.
Yeah, I do want to say something. So I agree with them 100%. It is sinful if you have a family because your family needs to take first priority. But I was looking at it from the perspective of they were saying that for all women, whether or not you have a family. So if a woman is single and she has no commitments like that, then I completely disagree with that. A woman could do whatever she wants to do, like what Aaron was saying. If she decides she wants to pursue a career and she does not want to have a family, she could by all means go 100 and nobody could judge her for that. Nobody could tell her that it's sinful. But if you have a
No,
family,
well, it's not simple too.
yeah, well, if it's within the context of a woman that has a family, then I completely agree with them that her commitments to her career cannot take precedent over her commitments to God or her commitments to her family. Those two things are actually the number one and number two priority in anyone's life, and it's not just a woman thing. It applies to men too. If a man is a career man, and his career comes before his family and his godly purpose, he is also sinning. So it's not just a woman thing. So I completely agree with that perspective. But why I wanted to raise here is this: modern society, feminism, and all of that, pushing this get the bag mentality down women's throats. This whole run out there and be an independent woman and make money and be an entrepreneur. Everybody and the nenen and the bougie and the tanty and the cousin want to be yeah, 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 yeah. We go educate all of them terminologies later. Everybody want to be an entrepreneur now. Everybody feel that they cut out to be an entrepreneur, and especially women. Modern society promoting this businesswoman image that need to be going out there and get the bag and concentrate on she career and focus. Like if that's the only thing, and like we discussed earlier, they frowning on women who wants to have the traditional life that a woman used to have that was honorable. You know. So all I want to say as a woman to women that buying into that, which is fine, is that consider the fact that while you're sacrificing the traditional things and you're being taught and you're buying into the fact that this is the life that is worthwhile pursuing, When you get to 32, 33, 34, all around there, and your career taking off and everything running smooth, and you realize, wait now, I kind of want to be a mommy, and I would have liked to experience, childbirth. I would have liked to raise a child. Now you're hustling now to get a husband. You want to settle down, and you eliminate the vast majorities of your opportunities to end up in that situation because guess what? Now you're a 1% woman. And even an ordinary woman is a top tier, even an ordinary beautiful woman is a top tier woman. So imagine a beautiful woman who is a high powered CEO. She's a half of a 1%. I don't know what to call that woman. So she marketplace for men is done a tiny marketplace already. Because it only have a handful of men. If we have to be honest, women don't really date down. Men does date down, right? But for the most part, women don't date men below their status. So when you use this big hotshot career woman and you're ready to settle down at age 35 and you're done kind of Xing off some important boxes already as a woman. Because you're done older than a lot of men who at your level looking for. Because if we have to be real, you're a big shot career woman, you're looking for millionaires, you're looking for CEOs, you're looking for company owners, and them fellas have the pick of women. Them fellas are women in their 20s lining up the most beautiful women in the world or whatever. And you now come in with your 35-year-old self, ready to make trend because you worry your biological clock will stop ticking. And you want to concentrate all your efforts on that now where it's difficult for you to get the kind of man you want to have and have the kind of life you want to have, and then you're gonna start having all kind of other problems. So, it's just something for women to consider that while all the efforts is on career and the bag, that when later on in life, only realize that there are other things that start becoming more important to all you. Consider the situation you might be in when them situations arise. It's just something to consider.
All right. So I want to ask a question, right? As a man, would you okay, how do you feel about your potential wife wanting to be a homemaker? Your actual wife or your potential wife? This is a man question regardless.
I'll lean in back.
How do how do you feel about your wife, potential wife, wanting to be a homemaker?
I have no problem with it. That is what I want. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, I like
So dry.
short and sweet by Aaron.
No,
But okay,
me are
so
nothing else to say. Emerson. I'm be real with you, right? Well, my thing is, I always want somebody who would take care of the household when I go into work, right? But with that being said, I would also want somebody who willing to say like if God forbid hard times strike, that you would also lend my helping hand as well too. Right? Because sometimes you don't see everything that going to happen. Right? But as long as life nice, I want you to stay home. You do online trading or whatever the case may be. You make your trade money home, but make sure I have some hot tea when I come home, please, because I will mash up everything. Nobody. Um, yeah. No, but on a serious note now, that is how I prefer it because to me, as a man, you just want to have somebody around to make you feel like it is something. You understand me? And to me, that speak to me directly. Because if you're around and you're doing something for me, it will make me feel like I am something, which will in turn make me treat you like you is something too. You understand what I'm saying? Like just
all
a
right,
little breakdown, right?
all right. Well, I'll be calling the fire service immediately after the show, and I'll pray that nobody can burn down Aaron house from YouTube or anywhere like that. So here are my views
I
on
can
it.
show them a picture, where to find it.
So these my views on it. I have a much more relaxed viewpoint on it, and this is my view, right? If men out here, like even like Aaron, if all you want women to have this, homemaker role, well, you best make sure that all in a position to hold on the fort as a provider. If it is you can't pay all the bills and you can't save enough money and you can't have everything done, that this woman do not ever have to worry about picking up a purse and put on a pantsuit to go there, then more power to you. But personally, I know in this modern society we live in, it's very difficult to make it with one income. So even though there's an admirable goal to set for your family, if that is what you're looking for, my personal perspective is this. I have no issue with my significant other wanting to work or have a career. I have no problem with that at all. But to quote the late great Dr. Miles Monroe, and this is what I believe, this is what I believe about it. I do think any woman wants to have to work, right? So I could, this is my compromise there on the side of Aaron. I don't think any woman wants to have to work. I agree with his perspective on Miles Monroe's perspective on that fully. I think she wants to have the option to work if she does, if she wants to, but she doesn't want to have to. So that a man should put himself in a position that if his woman does not want to work, she has the option to stay at home. But if she wants to work and to pursue something, she welcome to do that. So that is my perspective. I'm not gonna demand that you stay home, even if I could provide. I am of the viewpoint that if you want to pursue something, that you could do so. However, what I would like is for you to be the forerunner for the home's responsibilities. So if we have things that's still in alignment with what we was discussing before, men are a particular way and women are a particular way. And I do believe that women are better than men at certain things, and men are better than women at certain things, even though there are exceptions, right? As we were talking about in exceptions for choosing careers and all of that. Sure, it will have women who could mix concrete better than a man, and sure, it will have men who could cook better than a woman and take care of children better than a woman, right? But for the most part, women are better at responsibilities like nurturing and childcare, and men are better at going out there and work hard. So for me, I would prefer that the woman, and that is why it's a partnership. And that is why submission is not service. Submission is just submission to an authority. Because in this instance, you in charge. I want you to be the one in charge of of the responsibilities at home in terms of you will have the lion's share of the responsibilities. So if you could do that and still have a career, the word not coming to me, but you know what I mean. I have no objections to that at all. But I want now as a man to work and to put myself in a position that if you don't want to work, you have the option to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom, no problem. So that is my perspective on it.
Okay, and this question now is for the women on the panel, and I will give my view when all you finish answer, right? If your husband wants you to be a homemaker slash housewife, are you going to agree to it?
Where do I sign up?
Yes. Yes.
Where do I
Take
sign
care
up?
of me. Take care of me. Yes.
Okay. All right, okay. I really wasn't expecting that. I thought somebody would be like, no.
My definition of being a homemaker is closer to, I guess, Aaron's definition, where it's like, okay, I work from home, so my business is more home based. If I want to do trading, and I'll show you it, I'll do some trading. Things that able to supplement or help out wherever. I can do that, but I would like my role to be at home.
Yes, and unless Sean wanted to say something before I go.
No, no, I was just going to continue saying, yes, take care of me. I will take care of the house. You take care of me. Simple, Simon. I have nothing else to say not on that. Like, okay, if I want, like Krista, if I would like to do something, I am doing it from the comfort of my house. I am not leaving. You come to me. You understand what I'm saying? But that would be a choice to make that I have to do that. But if I don't want to, I mean, have a good day, honey. I'll make you breakfast every morning and pack your lunch for you to do.
Okay, well, I have no issue with being a homemaker because I have had experience in that, and it is a very lovely, wonderful experience. However, as Krista said too, my definition of being a housewife is I run my business from home. and I make money because a lot of people would say things like, you can't depend on no man to see about you. I don't believe that. You probably can't depend on your man to see about you. But that's a different conversation, right? I just have goals, I have dreams, and luckily I can do those, I can live out my purpose while being a housewife. So I have no issues with that. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to live out my okay, not joking. Yeah, I have no issue with that. You do your thing, you spread your wing, I help you, you help me, and yeah.
Let me just clarify something before we move on. Me enforcing nobody and I holding nobody at gunpoint. They're YouTube, so don't misjudge what I say.
I just say I agree.
Listen,
No,
she
I
did not
say
blink
Only no
twice.
man down the man house, man,
She did.
please.
She did. She did not blink twice earlier. Hey,
they
stop
can try and
blinking. Stop
burn down the
blinking.
house.
Stop blinking.
Yeah, I know that nobody at gunpoint. All I'm simply saying is that I prefer it a certain kind of way, and if she can't live up to that certain way that I want it, then she could freely go. I mean, it have more women than men anyhow you take it. So
Is the way he say it? Then?
So you will let people at gunpoint.
yeah,
Your way, my way.
my way or the highway.
Anyhow, y'all, we running out of time. I really think we will have to do a part 2 of this.
Of the
But
femininity?
yes, but before, because I have so many questions still. Before we go, I just want to continue along the whole housewife thing, right? Does a woman's lack of ambition for the corporate world, does that make her less of a woman? And also, we would really say that feminists are the ones that will judge a woman for wanting to be a stay-at-home mother or a homemaker, whatever the case is, right? They'll say things like, "You so lazy, you ain't doing nothing, you just want a man to see about you," and all this bunch of nonsense, right? But there are men who would also say, "I never trained my daughter to do that." You understand? I never trained my daughter to want a man to say about her. I push my daughter to be the best.
Or the opposite of that?
Exactly. So, what do you all think about that? A woman's lack of ambition for the corporate world. Does that make her a bum? Does that make her less than?
No.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Because
No.
her desire is to be barefoot and pregnant, right? And nothing wrong with that.
And to care for other human beings. That is a sometimes payless job. Okay, the reciprocity of that is that she gets taken care of. Hopefully.
My neighbor would have barefoot
Hopefully.
and pregnant talk, but I would tell.
Listen, she had to wear shoes, eh? These floors dangerous these days.
I used to say, my desire is to be barefoot and pregnant.
More power to she.
All right. Okay, speaking of the children thing, right? How important is it for a woman to want to have children?
We speak in society or like individual?
Entirely her choice.
In general.
In general.
What's
I
that?
mean, she said it's entirely her
I
choice.
said it's entirely her choice.
Yeah, I with you on that. To me, I'm neutral on that point. It's entirely up to her. You have a lot of women that want to have children, so it's fine if some of them don't want to. If the whole world of women decide they want
exactly.
children, that is different, but that's not gonna be the case. So I think it's
Yeah.
entirely up to her.
And I think that's the point I was just going to touch on. I was going to be like, okay, society wise, I mean, to reproduce wherever. But with the amount of people out here that don't already making children, if some don't want to, it's quite all right. Now, if you want, listen, if you want to, you want to. If you don't, you don't. I agree with Shannon and Emerson. I'm neutral with that point.
All right. Well, we have any other questions? I mean, I have. But
We have real questions in the time.
We have
Do we have more
endless
time?
questions. Endless
Yes.
questions. What about one of the elephants in the room? What
Ooh,
about
which one?
gender identity? We could touch on that a little bit.
Yes, you can.
We
The question
can.
about, you know, what, well, basically, what is a woman in terms of whether it's a biological thing or whether it's based on, basically whether a woman is something you're born as or whether a woman is something you could decide to be.
Can I be the first to answer?
Sister, you be the first to answer that one?
Sorry, what you said?
No, you go ahead, you go ahead, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is my belief. Okay, it is the biological way in which God created us. Okay, He gave us females two copies of the X chromosomes, whilst men have one X and one Y. Okay, the term woman is just to differentiate between the younger female and an older female. A younger female is called a girl, an older female is called a woman. We were born women, we were born female, and from when we were born, from when God created us, it wasn't interchangeable. It would the fact that we were female and woman were the same. It meant the same thing, right? Um, to touch on what you said about religion or what's the other things, the aspects, feelings, gender roles, those type of things, those I believe are secondary. They come after God, they come after biology, they come from society. So I don't think they can define what a woman is. It is biology and, well, the biological way in which God created us. That's my answer. That's my belief.
My answer is this, right? I also believe it's biology and nothing that you could have a feeling about and decide to change, right? Because both women and men were made specially, right? If you have a feeling that you are a man, well, you are a man, but you believe that a woman, how the term let's go? Is a woman trapped in a man's body, something like that?
A man trapped in a woman's body.
Yeah, then that defeating the purpose of how special women are made, right? Because first thing first, you can change your outside, but your inside still says something, right? No matter how much you could change your outside, your inside still saying that, hey, here's the seed. Biology says that you are supposed to be a man, right? And if, to me, this is my view, people, well, I could bond no more for sure, but this now.
Nah,
Yeah, to me,
you alone.
it's eliminating how special women are. If you could just have a feeling, you could just sit down. If I, Aaron Mitchell, could just sit down here and just say, but you know, I'm feeling to be a woman today. It's eliminating how special women are and the things that they go through, right? And realistically, me, just because I feel like changing myself, I would not understand certain things that women go through, like, for example, pregnancies and periods and the like. You understand me? So that is just my little 2 cents on the issue. I just think that, I just think that.
You touching this one, Shan?
Yes, it is biology. It's plain and simple. You are a woman because you were born a woman. You were made womanly. It did say in the Bible, what male and female, He created them. Hence, there is male. He created the male, and He created the female, and that's what it is. You're born so. And this is not a Lady Gaga song with Born This Way. She was talking about something else. Here we talking about you're born male and you're born female. You have the insides of a male, you have the insides of a female, you have the outsides of a male, you have the outsides of a female. It is what it is.
Right. So I think we unanimous on this one. We all think it's a matter of biology. But what I'd like to say, and what I'd like to ask the group, the panel, just a second. Okay, so before I ask my question, there's another issue related to that, right? Which is, if we say that what a woman is basically boils down to biology, what about women who don't meet some of the crucial biological criteria? You know, it are some women that can't have children. It are some women that can't do a lot of the things that we say, you know, are what essentially make a woman. Jade seemed like she had this one covered.
Crucial biological factor is genetic.
Pastor Susan in the house or what did you?
Y'all, people in the background here just answering questions as though, they're part of the panel. I send them to the YouTube channel.
It ain't too late for somebody to make a guest appearance, so if she want to borrow a mic.
It's too late. So,
Too late.
right. So, okay, this is what I was going to say. Yes, that is the argument that the people of the transgender community will say, that they are women because they feel like women, and we can't say that, they are not women because they can't do certain biological things, because biological women also can do certain biological things. However, it is all boils down to chromosomes, as Krista said. XX for female, XY for male. Not only that, let's take it a bit further. Not only chromosomes, bone structure, muscle mass, all these different things. The male pelvis and the female pelvis does not look the same. And so therefore, you could think and you could feel and you could imagine how much you want that you are a woman. The reality is that you are not, right? And but okay, this is the thing. I actually have grace for people who decide that they want to be transgender, because it is a literal mental disorder, right? They are suffering from gender dysphoria. And because they are suffering from gender dysphoria, it's as though this is what they have described it as. It's as though something is plaguing you so heavily that the only way that they could see a cure to what they feel is to literally change their bodies. Now, it doesn't always work, because after they change their bodies, sometimes it is not very beneficial to them, and the gender dysphoria does not cure. But these people really are suffering from serious mental issues, and I think that we should have some kind of grace for them, some sort of understanding, and love.
Yeah, I could fully agree with that, because the question I was going to ask would have been, that these people don't just wake up in the morning and say, I feel like I'll be a man today, or I feel like I'll be a woman. The issues that they go through, they are much more significant and deep-rooted issues, and a lot of them stem from very, very early childhood. And as a matter of fact, some of these issues are related to genealogy too. Some of them have hormones that a normal man doesn't have, or a normal woman doesn't have, and in essence, genetics that a normal man and a normal woman doesn't have. So they're predisposed to deal with these problems. And grace is definitely a very important thing, because it's a difficult struggle to be somebody like that, to have those types of issues. Even though, people like that do undermine the divinity attached to cisgendered man and cisgendered woman. I have to use the terminology, right?
Sorry, that one irritates me, but go ahead.
They undermine the divinity attached to, as our stereotypical biblical male and biblical female. But at the end of the day, these issues don't just stem from somebody waking up and feeling to be a man or feeling to be a woman. There are significant issues, and there's certainly things that, as Jade said, that we have to take care to understand better and to be in a position to offer them the type of grace and the attempt to support them that they need. Yes, Chris.
So I
Chrissy.
agree with I have to agree with both of you. But I think when you touched on the undermining part, I think it like when because I'm on social media a lot in terms of researching for topics and such. And for this one, I've seen a lot of transgender women, yes, transgender women wanting to essentially have the life of cisgendered women, right? So they want to go into female bathrooms, they want to play women's sports, all of these things. And I agree, a level of grace needs to be over this situation because you can see that they are ill in the sense of some of them, most of them are unable to see certain logic or reason. So if you say to them, okay, you are female appearing but you're not, they can't, they physically cannot. They will go all the way around fighting a point, right? Fighting this fact. And I think that ties into this mental illness. I truly believe it is a mental illness. um so I just wanted to add that I lost my second point because it gets late, but that's just what I wanted to add to it. I think they undermine it not just by being what they are, but also what they portray. This is what I wanted to say. In addition to grace, I think we also have to understand, okay, this is kind of dangerous, right? At the same time, them wanting to be women, right? Wanting to play in female sports, wanting to essentially be the same as a woman when they're not. I think it's dangerous for society, dangerous for women for that. And I think, as I said, in addition to grace, I think we need to have some sort of, I don't want to say discipline. What's the word? Like something needs to be put in place. Whether it's they have their own little sports, the transgender sports. I don't know what it is. The transgender male sports, the transgender woman sports, whatever it is, because until this thing is rectified in terms of they coming to and realizing, okay, or being healed from this mental illness, until that takes place, just saying, yeah, you could play with women or you could do this, is quite dangerous. So I think in addition to grace and handling it with grace, we also need to handle it with a bit of toughness. Tough love also needs to play in there as well, and saying, hey, nah, that's not right, because you can hurt other people of society. So that's all I have to add.
So I think it's safe to say that we're saying is that you need to have some regulations in place to protect women. That is basically what it boils down to.
That's
You
it.
need to
Thank you. That's the
regulate
word.
that to protect women from being dominated or placed in harm's way as in our attempt to be tolerant at every single thing that happened in the world. So there was one little thing that I think we could probably consider ending off with. I don't know what Jade has in mind, but you know, there are the issues attached to whether or not you could be a Christian and have these issues that we've been discussing throughout the entire show. Um, and I'll just start off by saying, yes, you could entirely be a Christian and you could be a feminist and you'll still be a Christian. You could be a lesbian and you'll still be a Christian. You could even be a transgender and be a Christian. You could be unwilling to submit to your husband and be a Christian. You could even be a modern woman and be a Christian. But that doesn't mean that these things are good or that they are okay. But whether or not you have salvation is not dependent on these things. So I don't know if anybody else have anything else they want to say on add to that subject.
I would just like to add, we are all battling with something, right? Um, we all have certain sins. We all, have our things that are against God. And even me, I'm a Christian and I commit sin. I'm not a sinner, but I commit sin, right? And God is continuing to pour out His grace on me, and I am in tandem. I am working on this relationship with Him. I'm not just saying, all right, God, I have salvation, so I good to go. You know, I good. No, he is pointing out to me my sin. He's pointing out to me where I fall short, and my part in it as a Christian is, all right, God, show me how to work on this. All right, God, show me the way to a clear path. All right, Lord, I love you, and I want to do right by you. I want to do your will. All right. Um, so I think, yes, you can be a Christian and be lesbian. You can be a Christian, be feminist. You can be a Christian, be all these types of things. But understand, is just because you come to Him this way does not mean you stay this way.
Yes, and I believe that everyone here agrees that you can be a Christian and go through things like that, and because we have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Now, Ole, I being real honest, I have so many more questions and things to touch on, and I really, really wished that we could touch on these things, especially when it comes to the transgender and the femininity and all of that. We may consider doing a short part two just to, complete this conversation. But yes, we would just like to thank everyone who participated in this dialogue, who contributed by viewing and commenting and all of that. Um, we just want you all to like this video right now. Get back to your phones, get back to your laptops and tablets. Just click that like. It takes a second. And subscribe to Hear This Now. Follow us on Facebook, Hear This Now. Follow us on Instagram at Hear This Now. And share this video with whoever you think may benefit from it. Check in our description because we have fun things going on in the description. Check out all our other episodes. And as I said, like. Nine taking no such a time to do. Call it and take 2 hours to sit down and listen to we. So yeah, we love you all. God bless you all. And thank you all once again for being a very active audience. And say it with me, guys. Yeah. This. No. Okay, bye-bye.